Go ahead, start it. Go ahead.
Sure. Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 8th session of the Meeting the Candidates series, organized by the Michigan Conservative Chinese Americans, aka MICCA. I'm Lan Tong. I'm a resident of Northville. I'll be your hostess tonight. Before we start, I'd like to give some friendly reminders of a couple housekeeping items. Our session consists of 2 parts, the candidate's speech and a Q&A. All members of the audience are muted when the candidate speaks, but are unmuted when it's time for questions. You may ask your questions using your audio or by submitting in the chat, and I'll be happy to read off the questions for you. If you have multiple questions, please prioritize them and ask one at a time so the candidate can better focus on giving well-thought responses. Now a few words about MICCA. MICCA is the only conservative-leaning organization representing the Chinese American community in Michigan. Founded in 2018, this organization has been actively involved in the election process by supporting Republican candidates. Chinese Americans in Michigan comprise one of the largest immigrant communities, and MICCA's primary goal is to improve the voting rate among Chinese Americans and promote awareness that the GOP platform is highly consistent with the values of the vast majority of Chinese Americans who have experienced socialism. To prepare for the 2022 midterm election, MICCA initiated the Meeting the Candidates virtual events with the purpose of introducing Republican candidates to our community. Tonight, we're very excited to have Mr. Evan Space with us. Evan is a Republican candidate for the governor of Michigan. He's a lifelong Michigan resident who originally came from Traverse City, a veteran who served in the Michigan Army National Guard for 8 years, and an entrepreneur in small business for over 28 years. And today he's going to share with us his background, his vision, and strategies as a Michigan governor candidate. So now I'll hand it over to Evan.
Can see my view here. There we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Evan Space, and I'm a returning Republican gubernatorial candidate from 2018. And I have developed a political policy and platform for the state of Michigan that works to help establish an economy for every Michigander out here that works better and to establish a much cleaner and much safer and more free environment that we are right now working with during this pandemic. I have developed a leniency looking towards making the elimination of the Michigan business tax for the state of Michigan. And that will be one of my top policies to be able to move forward with, seeing the fact that we need to be able to give our economy some leniencies. We need to be able to allow ourselves the capability to do this by giving employers more beneficial movement forward in the right direction with their employees and employers. With this, I want to bring a much more large amount of jobs to the state of Michigan by hundreds of thousands with the space exploration program here. The amount of jobs that we can do by making launch sites, support jobs, and manufacturing jobs in the state of Michigan will only go stronger as we be able to move forward in the right direction. Michigan needs a new rebirth and a new economic standpoint that allows us to be able to have the growth that Michigan needs for us to be able to have more people move to the state of Michigan. And that's why I'm actually moving in that direction. Now, right now, what I want to do is I want to take and put some more efforts into our military that we have as right now for the state and establish a full active military base that is along the lines of a National Guard base for many veterans alike, that we can be able to have ourselves gain the opportunistic values that we need to have more economic input by safeguarding our state. Michigan is one of the largest border states in the country, and by having us do so, we're able to actually allow ourselves to have the safety and security that we need within our country as Michigan is growing in the right direction. Now, what I want to do is I want to establish a much more open environment of promoting a 100-day audit for the state of Michigan so everybody can see where our state expenditures are moving forward in that direction, so we know that what our transparency we need in our government will happen in moving that direction. What we need to do is we need to look at what needs reformation for our state of Michigan. Reformation for the state of Michigan needs to be looked at by the DOC, the Department of Corrections. There's a huge overhaul that we're looking at and be able to reestablish a much more suitable environment for the inmates and for the facilities that we have in the state of Michigan. We have a numerous amount of them, and it needs to have some restructuring. That's why we'll put efforts into moving that direction with them. Alongside that, the family friend of the court has equality issues that we see in our state that are much more needed on equal balance for rights for every parent out there. It's strong and it's hard for us to be able to move with having a parent that it's not be able to actually put the food on the table or be able to take care of the kid in the way that they want when they're struggling to pay the unbalanced child supports. That's why there needs to be a restructuring of the FOC as well. Bringing it into Michigan, we need to look at other avenues as well, and energizing our roads with clean energy that can actually be able to help for the electric vehicle movement that we're going in, and pushing that direction with the new era and how we see things with our economy. Currently, on the way on going up to the Upper Peninsula, we're looking at Pipeline 5, and everybody wants to know that answer of where I stand with that. Pipeline 5 was actually one of my innovations that I was looking at for putting a tunnel in for transient, but alongside that, putting a pipeline tunnel in underneath there, I'm in full support with, and not allowing to have the big government come in and stifle the support for Michigan. We move hundreds of millions of crude oils and of other types of gases through there. And it's important for us to be able to alleviate the amount of stress that we're putting on our bridge, going over it on a period of time, and also lower the amount of cost for the energy fuels that we have going into that. That's why I believe the Pipeline 5 needs to be reestablished and needs to be open at all times, and we need to put that tunnel in there. What I want to do with the train systems is actually being talked about right now, and that's actually to put them so they actually move up north and they move down south, and they also can go from east to west as well, so we can be able to transit across Michigan in a much more efficient way. Michigan also needs to have something looked at for the education opportunities we have for the state, and I want to bring these education opportunities for our state there by handling it with giving new programs and new education opportunities for youngsters alike. I would mind actually putting forward a penmanship program so people can always still know how to be able to sign their names and everything like that. We've done away with some of the smallest things out there that means so much significance for our youngsters growing up. We're actually working with critical race theory in the school systems, and that needs to be done away with. Dealing with the fact that we're telling our kids on this evaluation of what we need to do about ethical values. It's not something they need to be learning about in our schools. It's something we need to push away from at all costs. Our kids need to be able to have the opportunities to know that the core value systems is changed, and it's changed immensely. We have kids now that are all going to school online, and kids that are actually going to school part-time, or kids that are masked right now. It's not up to the choice of being able to have the government tell you to wear that mask. It's up for your chance to be able to tell your child whether or not you want them to have that on. It's your choice. It should be put into the hands of the parents and not of the government. That's why I believe that if we need to move forward with our vaccinations in the state of Michigan, it needs not to be a pressed issue. It's your own personal decision of what you want to do with it. We shouldn't be pushing ourselves in a direction where we're making people feel alienated from one person to the next because they're not vaccinated or they are vaccinated. That's the kind of thing that I want to do for Michigan, very much so. When I think that we are pushing ourselves in the wrong direction by overhauling ourselves and telling us that we're not able to get a job just due to the fact of a poke, that's not a good direction for us to go. We need to know that our opportunities will never be stifled in Michigan, and that's why I want to leave it an open and free choice for Michigan and free opportunity to give yourselves, everybody's get back on their feet and moving the economy in that direction. What I want to do is I want to also bring up some more critical values for the state of Michigan that might bring in more opportunities. And I was looking at also bringing in Hollywood back to Michigan as say tax incentive and for us in that direction. If we can be able to bring ourselves new tourists and new venues that could actually bring millions of dollars into our state, our economy will be able to boost up in that direction as well. That's why I'm looking to restore Michigan's economy and work alongside this with everybody. Now, I may be the one governor that actually is looking to be able to fill the seat in 2022 that is much different than most of the other Republicans. I'm pro-gun, I'm pro-life, and yes, I am pro-marijuana, and I'm also pro-history. I have a little bit more understanding about our state and how the economy balances out. It's not just about choosing one view over the other view. So we need to be able to decide what view works best for Michigan, and that's by to hear the voice for everybody and be able to be your voice for Michigan. And that's why I'm running to be your candidate for 2022.
Great, thank you so much, Evan. That's a very comprehensive plan. Now let's move on to the Q&A. Audience members are welcome to raise questions either by unmuting yourself or typing questions in the chat.
Okay.
This is time. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see here. Oh, do I have to do anything here?
Yeah. Okay. While waiting for other questions, this is Gary. Hey, Evan, thank you. Thank you so much for put yourself in this race, and Michigan definitely does need the take the Lansing back to the people, right? So I really appreciate the effort, and I know it will take a lot to put yourself in the race and your family and a lot of time spent on it, and appreciate your service in the National Guard, and then continue on a service for our great state of Michigan. So my question for you is, you mentioned that you support marijuana. And this is one of the issues that actually was voted on back in 2018. Would you tell us why you support this marijuana initiative? Because one of the concerns that most of the parents probably have is what kind of message is that for the kids? And I know there's there's an age limit or something like that, but what kind of message is that? Is pros and cons that in your thought? Thank you.
Well, absolutely. I love challenging questions. Our economy in Michigan voted upon the medical use of it in 2008, and we've repealed it all the way back to where we take patients and caregivers and we strip down those rights of them to where the caregivers are only allowed to have up to 2 patients, and they're getting rid of the other 3, which gives a problematic issue for our economy and the balance for that. It's the safety and security about it that is the most concern that I want to be able to push in that direction. We've made it legal at the recreational level as well, and our economy is bolstered by that. But we also need to be able to know that if we're taking away from people's medicines that are saving them from illness, from saving them from death, and they're actually making their ailments better, and being able to give them the opportunities without stopping them with the big capitalistic lobbies that we have that are right now pushing to eliminate that opportunity for the patients out there. Where does it stop at with the opportunities of them going straight into the recreational as well, and just completely dismantling the whole economy of how they have set it up in the first place. It's something that helps our communities. It goes into 33% into 3 different ways. It goes into the communities, it goes back into the school systems, it goes back into helping take care of the patients as well. And all that money is actually very lucrative for our state. And if we're eliminating that, we're also eliminating the opportunities to keep our Michiganders healthy and well as well. Michigan is a state that could only benefit from an opportunity of having a safe and secure promotion of that standpoint. And that's why I want to stand behind it and know that there has to be the person between the middle to understand that what has been legal and what has the opportunities and what needs to be restricted and what doesn't need to be restricted. We can't just be taking this away from our patients and our caregivers, because then they'll be picking up and leaving the states, or that will create the most problematic issue of them all, and that's a black market for it. And we don't want to see that. We want to see a very, very open opportunity for knowing that everything is clean and safe on what they are giving out there into the distribution. So if we keep away from the black market, Michigan's economy will stay stronger.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Go ahead, Len. If you got any questions from the chat. I'm trying to, sorry, this is probably some of the technical issues. I think I did try to set everybody can unmute yourselves, but I'm not sure if you try to just do an unmute, what happens, because I thought that's the way I set up right now, so. Just give me a second. I think there's some kind of muting issue. Yeah, give me a second.
Great. Now I can unmute myself. Thank you, Gary.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. Well, thank you for your response, Evan. Apparently, as we can tell from the chats, that marijuana is a very critical issue and is one of the top concerns among our community. So several members already have some counter responses to you. Would anyone would like to speak more on this topic? I noticed Mike and Rayhan particularly raised their questions here. So Micah has one follow-up question. It says, how about crime and gateway to Hawaiian?
You mean a gateway? Is that what you're saying?
Gateway.
Yeah,
Is
okay.
that what you were trying to say, Mike?
Okay. As far as crime goes, that is one of the most minimal issues that we have. We have one of the most safest, secure forms of a distribution we have when it comes to facilities out there. There's security measures on security. We have security transports. The issue about crime is that if we make it a black market, the crime will start to escalate in the state of Michigan. We don't want to see that. We want to see where everybody is legal in the state of Michigan, rather than where we're making people illegal in Michigan. That's why I stand behind saying that if we don't stop with the movement of the medical and taking away from the medicine for the patients in the state of Michigan, then we're going to see an escalation in crime behind doors, and that's the black market. And that's where we have issues. So if we're keeping everything on a transparent issue, we're able to do this better by not giving our patients away and saying that they have to go elsewhere for that in order for them to be able to survive. As far as a gateway situation, Michigan has done a very good job in itself on being able to keep things safe and secure within the communities itself. It's not trying to bolster it into the hands of the younger generations or anything like that right now, but what it's trying to do is it's trying to make the economy stronger.
Okay, thanks for the response, Evan. Does anyone have any other comments regarding this topic? Okay, then let's move on to the next question in the chat. So Cindy said, I have a question. It is the first time I heard line 5. Could you provide a bit more detailed background about it?
No, absolutely. Pipeline 5 has been has obviously been struck by one of the anchors a while back, and it had a concern about it being it's a 6-year-old pipeline. Now, Pipeline 5, the initial outlook for that was to dig it down about 100 feet below the surface itself and create a tunnel underneath the straits from lower Michigan to upper Michigan, and to be able to secure it in a closed tunnel. And with that, we'd be able to allow ourselves to transport the fuels and energies of, I believe it's propane, as well through those lines that we need for Michigan. The upper Michigan obviously gets very cold up north, and we need to be able to keep the regulation of the amount of energy that they have to spend on that at lower costs. If we keep on pushing by shutting it down, we're going to only see the escalation of the cost per units for everyone in the state, and that's going to be problematic when everybody's still trying to get through this pandemic. We don't need to be able to cripple our economy with that. We need to be able to make sure that it stays strong, and that's why if we can actually be able to have Enbridge come in with Pipeline 5 and put a tunnel system in, we'll safeguard that from ever having an issue like another anchor strike as well.
Okay, thank you, Evan.
Thank you, Evan, for the answer. Yeah, so that will be a bill we want to add this one to the vote this year. Either we want to shut down the Pipeline 5 or it's just keep it under operation.
Okay, if we just keep it in operation, then we're putting ourselves at more risk than if we were to actually encapsulate it inside of a tunnel. Putting it inside a tunnel is going to be a huge project that we're going to have to go through, but we have the technologies and we have the capabilities now that we've moved so far into our futures that we can be able to make this done with a very safe and efficient move in the right direction with that.
Okay. Thank you for the answer.
You're welcome.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Actually, I have 2 questions. One from myself and the other on behalf of a friend who is not available to call in today. So the first question is, to boost Michigan's economy, one of the measures that you propose on your campaign website is to eliminate all Michigan business tax.
Yes.
As we know, the current business income tax in Michigan is 4.95%, which is a decent percentage. If all those earnings disappear, how would you collect the money to support necessary expenditures, for example, fixing the roads, cleaning water, etc.?
Good question. I already have an answer for that. I've already thought about that. If we get rid of the Michigan business tax, we can actually be able to have a small bump in our sales tax. Not by much, but by a small margin, as anywhere between 1.5% to 2% at the most. Michigan business tax is relatively low. It's at about 6% right now. And if we bumped it about to 1.5% to 2%, I don't think anybody would have a very big issue with being able to have more money in their pockets, because you're taking that 4% down and getting rid of from that, and you're cutting it in half. And they're be more willing to actually go out there and spend the money that they're actually be able to accumulate by doing that. Now with the roads, that's another interesting one that I have been working on, and that's actually working with the borders of Michigan. Michigan is a very open and free state to cross the borders on, but we need to actually look at putting more of the tollways in for the borders. So if people are coming to visit more often, they're actually helping contribute to our roads and be able to, that they are driving on, and be able to help take care of the amount of cost it is for roads and construction. As far as the people who live near the cities that are near the border of Michigan, we would actually look at being able to give them the opportunity of a lessened amount greatly for them if they're to be able to transpond between Michigan and going out of the Michigan to the other states like Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. Michigan can thrive very well if we can actually be able to give that opportunity to put in a few more of those tollways for our state. It's one of those things that if you want to visit our state, I really think that just contributing a few dollars here and there would do a large amount for the outcome and be able to make our roads better. As far as making our roads cheaper and more efficient, we could also look at things as far as hempcrete for our road systems, and that are actually more strong and stable. And we do have the technologies and the studies that have been done to make more cost-effective roads for the state as well. One of the things that I wouldn't mind doing for Michigan and would bring a lot of tourism to the state is a new proposed idea to make a seasonal portion of certain roadways in Michigan, like in Michigan Autobahn, where it's a gearhead city over in Detroit, and everybody would be more than thrilled to come to a seasonal roadway where they can be able to test out their skills and be able to pay for those roads by being able to get on the Michigan Autobahn and be able to have that. Giving new light to Michigan by bringing new venues and new opportunities will help escalate us in the right direction for making our infrastructure for the state much better.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Evan. So I see there is one comment from Hong Wei. Very interesting. This question is actually related to the question that I'm going to ask on behalf of my friend. So Hong Wei's question is, Michigan, hold on one second, let me pull it up. Yeah, Michigan doesn't seem to be on the top choices of young talents. Any thoughts on that, on why, and share your thoughts on how to improve it? And the question that comes from my friend is related to the recent announcement by the Intel Corp, which announced that, well, so here's the background information in case some members of the audience are not very familiar with this. So on Friday, January 21st, Intel Corp announced that it would invest up to $100 billion to build potentially the world's largest chip-making complex in New Albany, Ohio, looking to boost capacity as a global shortage of semiconductors. This will create 3,000 high-tech jobs, 7,000 construction jobs, and tens of thousands of support jobs. As Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger put, quote, "We are excited to call Ohio home to Intel's first new manufacturing site in 40 years, end quote. So as Ohio's neighbor state, Michigan wonders, why Ohio? What has Ohio done to reinforce themselves as a magnet to attract talent and business? So Evan, what do you think Michigan can learn from them?
I'm thinking that Ohio's actually giving them some more incentives for their move to be able to establish them in the state there. And I think that with Michigan, we're not doing enough to make our push in that direction to give them the necessary want for them to be able to move to our state. we need to give them some more incentive. And that would all go right back to the Michigan business tax elimination as well. If they have that opportunity to move here and not pay that extra tax, their chances of being able to establish them in the state would be greater if we give them these kinds of incentives for the state. I think that Michigan can do a complete overhaul and become one of those states just like Ohio, or one of those states just like what we had lost to when it went down to Tennessee to make those electric vehicles in the new city that they're creating. Michigan can come back tenfold if they take the idea of the space exploration era seriously. We're moving in the direction where everything is going to be looked at in exploratory measures from the moon all the way out to Mars as well. Michigan can take a grasp and a hold on that by creating these jobs and these launch sites and the support jobs and the manufacturing jobs right here in Michigan. That would then pull from opportunities like what we've seen in Ohio, where they would be contracting with their chip plants, assured of, to work hand in hand with Michigan and bring more of those jobs that they have there right back to our state in return.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, did you complete your answer?
So you also want to know one other thing. I thought there was another thing that you had asked about, that was about the youngster generation. Is that correct?
That's true.
Okay, so what was that? Could you clarify that question one more time for me, please?
Sure, let me repeat it. So Michigan does not seem to be on the top choices of young talents. Any thoughts on why? And share your thoughts on how to improve it.
Okay. I would have to say it's because Michigan is growing older, and older generations are not creating new revived life for the state of Michigan in that. What we need to do is we need to create like these techno cities that you see with tech and the technologies that they bring. We need to be able to get youngsters in here that actually want to look into the space era as well for their programs. I want to be able to see Michigan as an opportunistic state for us to be able to say that they're coming over here to study for becoming an astronaut, or they're coming here to the state because they are working hand in hand with the computer chip plant that is actually been installed in Ohio. You know, they're bringing jobs back here to our state because we're putting them into the tool and die shops that we're working with. Michigan is a highly motivated state, and the ability to develop new products and technologies. If we can bring that kind of thing to Michigan, more younger generations will be involved, as well as the thing about Hollywood coming into the state of Michigan. I don't know many more younger generations that wouldn't be more thrilled than to be able to have the opportunity than to be starred in a big movie, or have the chance to be background for them or work with them hand in hand and be able to say, hey, look at this movie, it's made right here in Michigan. And it's just me right there in that background, or it's just me making that movie right there. These are the kinds of things that we need to do to be able to bring the younger youth to Michigan as well. With the fun, that would definitely bring in a lot of young kids wanting to be able to try it out. But obviously there would be safeties and regulations that they would have to follow if they wanted to be on that said highway. I'm looking at bringing new youthful programs for Michigan that are different, new, fun, exciting opportunities that people will want to be able to come here to our state and be able to be more developed with. I don't think that we're doing enough push in our education programs that are allowing us to be able to say that we're changing these new programs up so the younger generations will be more thrilled about being a Michigan resident and being here going to school. That's why I want to be able to push for those kinds of opportunities.
Thank you for offering those proposals. The next question in the chat is, I'm interested to know what measures you have in mind to increase the competitiveness of the American auto companies. As far as I know, Japanese auto companies do not have unions, which significantly controls the cost. What can American company do?
Unions, that's a good one. Michigan can be compelled with working with unions as best they can possible, but we need to have a gubernatorial candidate that has the knowledge of working with unions directly. And I myself grew up at a younger age and was in a union for a short period of time. It wasn't my particular thing that I was most fond of, but I understood the capabilities of being able to secure your job and giving you benefits that you need for that kind of thing. The automobile industry in the state of Michigan is heavily reliant on the new push for electric vehicles coming onto the road. But at the same time, we need to be able to understand that the electric vehicles coming onto the road are going to need ways of charging and be able to have that happen. That's with the electric vehicle charging ports on the roadways themselves to charge vehicles down them would also push for the automobile industry to be able to put those kinds of things in directly and be correlated with that kind of opportunity. Michigan needs to know that you can't just take and put a whole bunch of electric vehicles into a neighborhood and have everybody charging their vehicles all at once, or else you're going to start seeing rolling brownouts for the state. We need to be able to alleviate that amount of stress that we have on our electric system and be able to make opportunities that will work for the state and be able to work for the automobile industry if they're going to push themselves in the direction of the electrical vehicle era as well. I was actually looking at also proposing ideas that the facts that we're looking at drone technologies and vehicles that are actually now starting to propose themselves that are actually being able to lift off the ground and fly across the actually from point A to point B. Let's start looking at the opportunities and say, let's put in a highway system that will allow us to have the airspace needed for people to be able to take those types of vehicles down them or take the drones down them, so we can be able to add that to the automobile industry as well. It's the opportunity for Michigan to be able to decide whether or not they want to have their unions or they do not want to have their unions. It's Michigan's choice, and I'm actually just trying to be your political voice for the state of Michigan as your guy in that corner. I'm looking at being able to best interest for everyone and not being able to say that nobody can have a union or somebody has to have a union. I'm going to be able to voice that opinion and be able to weigh out the differences between both of those things to be able to decide what's going to give the best competitive edge against places like Japan and China as well.
Thank you. I hope your response addressed the concerns and questions from our audience. Well, two audience members actually sent the chat on the same topic. One is already in the chat, the other one, or in the public chat, the other one was given to me in a private message. So it's actually from one of the teenagers in our Northfield. So Audrey, would you like to unmute yourself and ask a question regarding the statehood of Upper Peninsula?
Sure, thank you. So hi, Mr. Space. My name is Audrey Zhang, and I'm a senior at Northfield High School. On your campaign website, you expressed that you think it's time for Michigan to move forward and create a 51st statehood for the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I personally find this idea very creative, but I do not really understand the rationale behind it. In particular, how will the independence of the UP provide the opportunity of economic growth, but without suffering any drawbacks such as social impact?
Excellent question. I'm glad somebody actually was able to bring that up because I was trying to get through all my talking points as best as I could possible, but that was one of the things I had skipped over a little bit. I'm actually looking to give more independence to the Upper Peninsula by appointing the lieutenant governor that I would have in my corner for me to be the second in command, to actually be running as a gubernatorial voice for them as well up there. the opportunity for them to be able to be heard as a statehood, and not to be able to make it succession or break away from us is important as well to know that. I'm not looking to take and make the Upper Peninsula its own 51st state yet, because that's something that's got time to be able to do. If that happens down in Lansing to what happens up in the Upper Peninsula is much different. They live in a different world up there. And I think it's time for us to be able to give them the opportunities that they need to be able to make the choices that they can do to be able to make their economy stronger and be able to get them more funding that they need as a more individual territory for the state of Michigan. Michigan needs a true Michigander that is a part of that world up there, that knows what it's like to live up there, knows what it's like to be able to make it better. There's a whole bunch of different colleges and universities up in the Upper Peninsula, and we are having one of the lowest amounts of populations up there in all that land. If we can give them the chance to be able to build upon that and be able to move it the way they want to, I can see a stronger and much more suitable economy for the state of Michigan as a whole, working together with the Upper Peninsula to make a new opportunistic state for them. That's why I say that as a 51st state would be a problem of an idea, but more of a real idea could actually happen. If we give Michigan the chance to be able to say that the Upper Peninsula wants to be more individualized and give them, say, their own hockey team, professional hockey team, imagine the amount of income that you could actually generate and the amount of tourism and the amount of thriving capabilities that they would have as their own territory up there. Is there more that I can enlighten you on about that, Audrey?
Well, thank you very much for answering my question. I do have a follow-up. What is preventing the UP from being able to achieve all that right now, just as an original part of Michigan?
That would be the fact that we control the whole state of Michigan from down here in the lower half of Michigan. I am what I would consider an honorary Uper. I was actually a sergeant in the Calumet Army National Guard up there for about 2 years. And I got to see that the opportunity is there for Michigan, and that we used to have one of the most thriving economies in the country, and that was for the copper that we were extracting out of the mines. There is actually new opportunities for us to reopen some of those mines up there as well and be able to start up a rebirth for them and be able to give them those chances. Now, what's going on right now is that everything's being controlled down here in the lower states, and they don't have enough pull up there for them to have their own personal choice and their own personal voice for them. Now, if you take a lieutenant governor that is a born native to the Upper Peninsula, and that they have their skills and knowledge of what they have from living there their entire lives, I'm sure that we could actually see great strides in the right direction and be able to give the opportunity for them to become a more individualized statehood as the 51st state, possibly for the state of Michigan as well. We're looking at bringing new minerals up from the grounds. We're looking at giving them professional teams. We're looking at giving them their chance to be able to decide what they want to be able to push for their own political policies up there. And then when they decide those policies on like a second type of capital that they go to make their choices in like one of the big cities, or actually one of the proposed cities like Calumet, for instance, that they could actually bring those ideas back down to the lower peninsula and be able to say, this is what we want to do with the UP, and this is how we want to be able to make it better. And then we'd be able to work better as a team, working out the best ideas that are possible to make Michigan not just great, but the best state that it could possibly be.
Okay, thank you very much, Evan. It's nice to have the teenagers ask questions. It's good to have the young generation being involved in the community events as well. Good. So I noticed that a couple of members unmuted themselves. Would you like to ask further questions?
Yes, this is Hong Wei. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yep. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Evan. My name is Hong Wei. Going back to the Michigan economy related topic, you know, we keep hearing Foxconn investing in Wisconsin, Intel investing in Ohio, and we haven't had those type of news during the tenure of current governor. I really like the idea that you put in here, eliminating the business tax. Bring the rocket launch site to Michigan, and media business like Hollywood related business support, things like that. But I probably, from my perspective, I still seeing that the technology part of it, especially the engineering part of it, is probably the strongest. How do I say, like the arsenals, strongest piece of arsenals in Michigan within the state. What I notice is that there seems to be a pretty big disconnection between the current government and the business. One of the examples that looks like Ford decided to invest in Tennessee and Kentucky for their new plants, and the governor has no idea that's occurring. And I'm not sure what happened for the Intel investment in Ohio. Did Michigan even had a chance to talk to Intel? That kind of worries people like us, right? I mean, all this $10 billion, $100 billion investment just not even like showing on the screen of, we're not even heard about it, and then it was decided. So what's your thought on that? Like, how do you bring the connection back to Lansing so that Lansing has more direct, straightforward communication with the business leaders, especially those key companies like Intel, AMD, I don't know, Ford, General Motors, and Tesla, SpaceX, etc.
I'm digging this question. I really am. It's a good question. It's really digging deep into the economy of Michigan on what we're doing about bringing jobs to the state and securing these job opportunities. I myself right here live directly in Lansing, Michigan, and I have seen the amount of jobs and the amount of decreasing land areas that we've had for, like said, General Motors and the big three in the very state here, and how the manufacturing jobs have disappeared for the portion of the capital. Lansing has all this open land and all this opportunity to rebuild and put new facilities on it once again, and be able to establish itself in a new era that we're going into. What concerns me as well is the fact that Governor Whitmer did not do enough. She did not do enough to secure a incentive for us to be able to get that job field that they were talking about for the electric vehicles that were being built in Tennessee. Those jobs there are not just a few, but that's an entire city they're going to build. They're going to build about 4,000 to 6,000 jobs down there. And that's not even including all the support and all the other little side operations like restaurants and hotels and small construction companies that are building all that stuff in that small city. It saddens me to know that she did not push and did not stand up for Michigan enough in that direction. Michigan needs to have somebody that's actually got a governor that has a lot of brass. Let's just put it that way. A lot of brass to be able to say enough is enough and be able to let these big opportunities go. Let's bring them back to Michigan. Let's give them the opportunities. That's why the Michigan business tax elimination is a huge issue that would give a huge amount of incentive for businesses alike to be able to move to the state of Michigan. It would also give them the huge amount of opportunities for them as well to say, what else does Michigan have to offer? If we could bring Tesla in, for instance, and say that we want to put them to take care of the electric road theory that I was talking about. And it was one of my proposed ideas way before Gretchen Whitmer had even brought it up in the first place. I was actually talking about putting renewable energies that we can actually use to charge these roads, where you can hook up a certain device to your electric vehicle and drive down the road, knowing that you don't have to be plugged into a wall like we have right now with our telephones when we were growing up. Just have the opportunity to be able to get into Michigan and go from one end of the state all the way to the other end of the state would be huge. And if we can bring more opportunities like that to Elon Musk, who's the CEO of Tesla, then I say, let's bring it here. We already have some facilities in the Grand Rapids area that is Tesla based. Let's just bring it a lot further in there and bring his programs to the state of Michigan. Let's make the opportunity available to not just one program like SpaceX, but let's give the opportunity to Blue Origin to make their proposal. Let's give the opportunity to SpaceX to make their proposal. Let's give the opportunity to Virgin Galactic to make their opportunity and see what they have to offer for our space exploration programs and their launch sites. Let's give the opportunities to everybody. Let's give these incentives that they need. And that's why I want to be able to put something like that in there and say, let's put this Autobahn in for the Michigan area, and let's make it so it's a seasonal opportunity, and let's push for more visitors to come into the state of Michigan, and let's bring these jobs back here and stop allowing us to get pushed around the way that our governor has done so far.
Thank you, Evan. Appreciate that. I think those are fantastic idea. Definitely look forward to see it put into reality. So going back to the idea of eliminating the business tax, I mean, that's going to put tremendous budgeting pressure on your shoulder. In that case, you probably cannot have a very big government. You will need a government with very efficient way of doing things and less bureaucracies and things like that. What's in your mind in terms of how to tackle, with less revenues and coming from business? How do you still planning to keep keep the operations of the governor office to be able to run the states more efficiently in comparison, so to speak?
That's a good question. That's where the 100-day audit of all of our spending expenditures for the state of Michigan and the infrastructure is coming from, to create that clear transparency and be able to pull where we need to be able to budget things more properly. Look at how much money that we had sunk into our trails and parks that we have for the state of Michigan. That money is kind of money that is potentially able to be hidden away and not be able to have a clear transparency to where it's actually being put. If we could actually be able to give ourselves the opportunity to balance the budget in that right direction and get the right people that we need to staff the state of Michigan as very good economists, to be able to know what we can do to be able to move funds from one point to another point, we can be able to make ourselves stronger in that regard as well. It will definitely put a huge amount of pressure on the state to make that move immediately when we do so. But if we're able to actually push programs in there that actually are bringing the money that we need to the state of Michigan, and we actually have people moving to the state of Michigan, and we're actually receiving the federal money that's actually coming into our state guard bases that we have for the Michigan active duty base that I'm pushing for. We'll be able to create that amount of money that we need for the income to balance it out with that 4% loss. As well as the fact that if we're actually able to bring up the Upper Peninsula an opportunity to extract minerals and mine more different type of elements that we need out of the ground system, because we have the technologies to do so, then we can actually create a much stronger income for the economy in the Upper Peninsula as well, and for the state of Michigan.
Sounds exciting. Thank you very much, Evan. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, thank you. We're approaching the end of the session. Does anyone else still have questions? We have 1 more minute. If no, I think we can conclude today's session. Thank you so much for spending the past hour with us, Evan.
You're
And
quite
thanks
welcome. I want to give you my business card. I want to make sure that Michigan will light up on fire with the economy that I'm putting forward for you guys.
Thank you very much.
That was good.
Yeah. And thanks to everyone for participating. It has been a very informative and stimulating meeting. I wish you all a good rest of your night and a happy Chinese New Year. We look forward to seeing you all at the next meeting the candidates. Thank
Happy
you.
I think we
Thank you.
should just say a quick reminder that for those of you who like to support Evan, I think you can go to his website. There will be a donation link, and you can always support him in different ways, including financially as well.
That's a great addition. Thank you, Hongwei.
Yep.
All right.
Evan, thank you for coming to us, and
Thank you so much
I
for
wish you
inviting
good
me.
luck in your campaign.
Thank you so much. I greatly
Best
appreciate
wishes.
your time.
Yeah. And the recording will
Okay.
be posted on our the YouTube. Yeah, will be available to people as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See here.